Okay, we are still connected.
Right. Okay. So now I am ready. Yeah, for sure. Okay. 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion. As I like to say, the podcast for blind people, where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community. All right, then. Well, like I said, welcome back. Another episode of Aaron's Opinion. We're joined second time today, Aaron Swanepoel, his second time on the podcast.
Hello.
Yeah, and I wanted to I just wanted to preface it by saying that our great friend Ian Naidu in the community kind of not necessarily offered this idea, but was telling me, Aaron, you love history. You know some things about South Africa. You love doing deep, serious episodes. Why don't you do a deep dive on apartheid? And I never thought I would actually get to have this conversation. So like I said before, Aaron Swanepoel, this should be is the deep dive of apartheid. As I said, your life story, and tell everything you want to tell, and anything you don't want to tell, don't tell it. But go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. For me, being a white person in South Africa, apartheid wasn't the same for me as for black people. And actually, apartheid is a thing. In a certain case, it's not ended yet, as I believe, because back in the 80s, when South Africa was under other government, so-called white people, Afrikaans-speaking white people, then for most of South Africans it was better, and there was things that happened. Maybe for black people it wasn't always good, but there was more safety in that time. There was more, in my opinion, more people had jobs, more people had work. They everyone had work. Our health system worked better, and people been looked after much better than now. And certain thing these days, our health system is actually not in a very good situation, and then our economic was better then than it is now, and so for people who know South Africa, they maybe, some people will differ from me, and other people will maybe agree with me, but South Africa been, in my perspective, been brought up by Afrikaans speaking and English speaking white people, or so-called Europeans. And if you get the history from 16 52, when there was a guy called Jan van Riebeek came to the Cape, and then things happened from there on. And but okay, that's way long ago. But yeah, we're actually talking about last um, 30, 30 or 40 years. Um, Many people could go to school. Many children at schools, and there was enough schools uh, for all people. And then yeah, we had a government that looked very well after all the people. And yeah, maybe not all communities will say the same, but safety was there wasn't in the 80s. There wasn't so much um, crime as you see these days. These days, there's lots of crime. There's lots. You cannot, like for instance, um, in a small town called Worcester, where I left in my school days. When I finished school at in 1989 and 1990, in the evening you could take a walk during the evening, but you cannot do it now anymore. Because the crime went up, and yeah, people had to make safety gates all over, and the gates must be locked after 6 o'clock in the evening. You cannot take a walk during the early evening, or maybe later if you want to go to the shops. These days there was like the small shop you can go for maybe like we call it maybe a midnight snack. You can go and buy yourself something, a burger and a cool drink, and then go back to your place. But now these days you cannot do it anymore. And all over the country. And the big problem we have these days is the farm murders, the crime on the farmers being killed. And if you can only have a look on Media 24 and so on, all the crime scenes and all the things that happen, farmers being killed, brutally killed. It's not that they been killed for the goods that they have. It's just for politic reasons. It's like very brutal crime that happened, where it's like a it's like a house of it's a it looks like a abattoir, as I can use a word that one guy used. Uh, so yeah, if you just look on Facebook and see how many people talk about the crime scene, and yeah, maybe the thing about apartheid what was bad was there was different places for different people, and but these days when I think back on that day, I can understand why. Because maybe the people at that time, they know, they knew what's going to happen, maybe, and that's why they didn't want a certain kind of people just come between other people, and but I don't want to go too deep into that. Uh, because that's a other argument, another argument. But yeah, at in the 1980s, as I said earlier, the health system was better. The service deliverings was better. Um, there wasn't so much strikes on the streets, and violence like these days. And yeah, so what I enjoyed a lot about the 80s was the music, nice music, and we could listen to all kinds of music all over the world, and okay, these days also. And the technology make the world very small. You can read news from anywhere in the country these days, and yeah. So in many people of my age, they will tell you that things was better in the olden days, because yeah, like I said, more people had jobs. The and there wasn't so many squatter camps. Sure, these days in South Africa, the squatter camps grow like mad, especially in town. All over Pretoria, you will find squatter camps, and yeah. So this is actually my point, um, and yeah, for disability people, uh, even in that day there was more opportunities. You could get much easier a job as a blind switchboard operator. But yeah, when I grown up, then the switchboard operating jobs get more or less, and it's actually now all call center based. So yeah, um, and with smart intelligence, with computers that can do most of the work these days. Yeah, it's also uh, things in that direction that change a lot. But yeah, this is and then we have a great problem with load shedding these days. In the 80s, we didn't have anything like that. We didn't even know something like load shedding, and um, our Eskom was one of the best um, energy suppliers in the world. Like in these days, it's it's sure it's downgraded to almost to nothing. There's not a day where there's no load shedding. and I don't think the situation will change. ISKCON will never be the same as it was, and it's because of the ANC government that we have, and the other parties also, the left hand parties that is with the ANC, like the EFF and so on. But yeah, it's actually a very it's actually something uh, to understand, that you really have to listen or read the news and to understand what this is all about. And uh, these days, South Africans feel like, or many white South Africans feel like, the promises that been made in 1994 wasn't being kept, and there wasn't, and then the great problem is also, um, BEE, the Black Economic Empowerment, and it's not actually empowered. It didn't actually empower black people in any way, because most there's more black people staying in squatter camps these days than ever, and life didn't improve for them. But I don't think the government that they voted for uh, do them anything good, and yeah, and I'm sorry if I don't come over very fluently, because actually my mother tongue is Afrikaans. But yeah, I hope people understand what I said. But yeah, this is my story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of that, all of that is extremely, extremely interesting. So Latabo joined us, by the way. I think he stepped away from his chair there, but he's in the audience. What you alluded to is actually interesting, which is that it is of your opinion that actually in some I don't want to say in some way, but in some aspects and in some facets, um, it seems like Aaron, you're painting the idea in my ear here that life had a lot of problems, that South Africa has been a nation of many challenges and many problems, and that it's your opinion that during the 80s, during the height of apartheid, is where you truly saw a tremendous amount of growth and people working and people functioning, and less of the problems we're seeing today. Is that kind of what you would like to say? Am I on the right track with that?
Yes, yes, and because it wasn't, you see, the thing for me is, it's like when people just get the job because they are a certain color, they don't have to work for something. And in my opinion, black people, they don't need to work to really deserve something. They will just get it because of black economic empowerment. And so sometimes it's bad to say that, but sometimes I feel ashamed. I feel actually sorry for them, because there's no, they don't have any proud. They don't have any proud, because just because they are black, they will get, excuse me, they will get they will get a job. It's not like
Right.
working hard for something and then
Yeah.
achieve a certain goal you are working for.
I think I
It's
know what, you know what, Aaron, I think I know what you're talking about. Are
yeah,
you trying to say that, in your opinion, because this is an opinion show and we're talking about something very serious right now, are you saying that it's your opinion that the blacks were basically handed out jobs by the government, by the, in many cases, by the whites? They would say, oh, we feel, quote unquote, we feel sorry for you, so you're just going to get this job because you're black. Is that what you're expressing?
yes,
Yes.
that's exactly
Now,
my
do you
point.
know, now, do you also know, and I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you know more about it. Do you also know that something similar, not the same, but something similar happened in the United States too, where sometimes African Americans a long time ago, sometimes they would get a job just based upon affirmative action, is what we call it here on the States. Affirmative action, meaning we say
Yes,
you're gonna get this job because you're black, but
sure.
right,
Okay, there
that's what it's
I
called,
learned
affirmative
something. Yes,
action. Right. And
yeah.
you're right, and that is fundamentally that's, it's wrongful no matter what. If you're discriminating, it's still a form of discrimination. If you give someone a job just because they're white or black, or in your context, in South African lingo, during the 80s, you would have said colored, different different groups of people, right? If you give a job to anyone based upon what they look like, well, that's discriminating. It's still discriminatory, and it's still a loss. It's not a win. And that's really, I think, your point, right? Is that
Yes,
you
yeah.
right is that you kind of, at some level, you sort of saw, you had the understanding of why South Africa was the way it was when South Africa was in this apartheid state. And then at the same time, you have, to some degree, you have some guilt and frustration for being, no fault of yours, happened to be born white, Afrikaner, right?
Yeah.
And then you realized, well, just because of the way that I look and the fact that I speak Afrikaans, I have to work hard my whole life, and then someone else who's a black or colored doesn't have to work at all, and they still get the job. And that's a form of severe discrimination. And that's one of the things that you didn't really express, only because English isn't your first language, is how in depth the discrimination in your society used to be. I think, if you're comfortable with it, and if you aren't comfortable, I'm not going to. Do you mind if I open Latabo's microphone? Do you mind if Latabo speaks? Can we bring him on today?
Yes, no, you can open. Let
Okay.
let us, yeah.
Okay. So let's see, because I'm sure that Latabo will have, well, I think he will understand what we're both saying, and then I think he will be able to explain it even just as we are. I think he'll be able to give even more of an explanation to go along with what you had just said, because a lot of listeners might be confused. Here, let's bring him in. Okay. I just signaled him to unmute. Okay. So until he opens his microphone, there you go.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. So Latabo, today we're doing, like I said, before you came in, Latabo, Ian Naidu gave me the idea, because I love history. He said, Aaron, why don't you sit down with Aaron Swanepoel and do a deep dive on apartheid? That's what we're talking about, if you haven't noticed. Okay. Your opinions about what both Aaron and I have said, and what do you really want to say to get off your chest about this matter? Go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Is it? Oh,
I don't
is he
know.
there?
I don't know, Aaron. He was there for a moment and then he stood up. I don't know. Here, let me drink some coffee. I think maybe someone called him or something like that. Because I heard him for a second.
Yes, I also heard him.
Yeah. So this created a lot of problems, and I do want to get Latabo's feedback before you start talking about what was going on in the 90s in South Africa and things like that. But I want to hopefully get Latabo's feedback about that. Yeah. So Oh boy, I don't know where he went now. Interesting. Maybe I don't know. Okay. Well, and
You
what are
see,
some,
what I want to say
mhm.
in the 90s,
Sure, go ahead.
in the 90s, we started this thing of the New South Africa, and for me as a person, personally for me, I was really fine with uh, with the idea of a new South Africa, a new where everyone have the same opportunities, and where everyone must have the same things. So it's actually a shame that he went away now. Um, yeah, it's actually a pity. Uh, very sorry about that, but yeah. Um, but because in the apartheid times before the 90s, things wasn't very good for black people, and there was things that was not right. So because South Africa had to change, and no one want to go back before to the era before apartheid, because it wasn't a good time actually for black and white. But uh, uh, now there's no actual thing that we black people, I think, they cannot forgive. And you know what, some of them in a certain age, younger than a certain age, they don't even know anything about apartheid really, because that's actually uh, the reason why I'm not really into talking about the history of apartheid and the history of uh, because there was things wrong, but I rather look ahead and say, what can we achieve? What can we do? What can we do with the stuff that we have now? The the Let's take the good of the past, and let's take the good of the time that we have now, that are in now, and see how can we make a difference.
Latabo just sat down again. Okay. So
Okay.
he came back here. Let's pause.
Hello, Letabu.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. He's still on. It seems like he's still muted. I can't quite seem to tell.
Then he maybe must have a look on his side if the microphone is muted still.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with his audio. Uh oh, okay.
Okay, he said he's muted.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Hello.
there he is. Okay, so
Yes.
Latabo, do you want to
Yes.
so Latabo, I'm sure you have a lot of comments that you want to make as well, because we're talking
Mhm.
about this today. So do you want to would you like to what would you like to share? What is your perspective on this matter and on this topic?
Well, on this topic, what I can say is there's a lot of things that are happening well in South Africa because of the crime rates that are happening. I think also Aaron obviously knows about it. And also the unemployment that's happening because like usually it's not just only applied to um I don't want to say it in a bad way, but also not just us blacks, but also the vast majority of South Africans, especially when it comes to youth. If I remember correctly, because like sometimes it would be like if I'm not mistaken, it could be like 30%, sometimes it could be like yeah, because if I remember sometime I think it was last year, like, for 2021, when it was roughly what you call like I think it was like hovering around like 30%. I'm not sure now. I think like I can't remember the stats of
Latabo,
this year.
Latabo.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
mean. I'm sorry to interrupt, but your audio
yeah.
is so distorted. I can't
Yeah.
really understand you.
Oh,
Could you do me a favor, Latabo? Can you leave the meeting and then just join it again and
shit.
restart? Because your signal today, man, is just out of control. I can't make heads or tails of it. Please leave the meeting and then come back into it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you, man. Yeah. So go ahead as we reset Latabo. Go ahead, Aaron. You were saying things that you feel that something that you've learned, so far is that in life sometimes you need to understand that with every bad situation there's a silver lining, and that people in life should take the good from the past and combine it with the good of the future. I think that's what you are. I think that is what you are,
Ye-
right?
yes,
Right.
yes. You see, because it's like you learn,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why history, in a certain way, is good, so that we learn from our mistakes, and
Right.
to learn to don't do certain things again.
Right.
And
However, I can pivot off that by saying that some, some very bad things happened in South Africa, and some very, very bad things happened really all over the world.
yes,
And we don't, and I'm glad that we're learning the lessons, but here's where I would start to challenge that a little. I would say that yes, you're correct, but then, well, why do we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over? And I would say to that, to answer my own question, I would say that probably not enough people are talking about the past like us, and not enough people are engaged in history as much as I am. But I can say that I think that people really need to learn from the past, and people really, really are not doing that. What do you think?
yes, I agree with that, because some people try, and they want to keep quiet about it, and
Right.
they hope that the bad thing will go away. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to sit and say, well, maybe I don't know everything that I've done to you, but um, I am sorry for on behalf of my people, that they maybe do things wrong. But
Right.
this is how can we make it better? So then there's a problem coming up when people sing things like "kill the boer, kill the farmer," and and that drives people away. And then especially when a certain guy sing "kill the boer, kill the farmer," and then just after that you heard of and it's most of the time it's old people. It's like a farmer, an old farmer and his wife, or an old farmer and it's always, it's most of the time it's people who cannot actually defend themselves because they are older people. And then young people come, and they break down everything. They hurt the old man and the old lady, and they, as I said, it looked like a abattoir. It looked like a place where you kill animal. It's blood all over the place, and all the bad things that go with it. And people who watch news on a regular basis in South Africa, they will know what I'm talking about. So that is not a way we can solve the history. It's
Right.
actually just make the history much badder and badder. It making make it worse. It make it very worse, and it make it hard for white people to forgive, because it wasn't only white people against black people in the history. It was other ways around also. So, but we have to see, we have to sit and talk and see where can we better the situation, where can we make it better, so that things like that don't happen again. And uh, there's some things where white people can learn from black people, and where black people can learn from white people.
He
Also,
is now, so now
to work
Latabo,
hard to find their own thing,
Mhm.
to do their own stuff, to create their own things, and and yeah, because uh, um, there's a lot of things that we can learn from each other, but
absolutely. Okay, let's give Latabo another chance. Latabo, let's hear your audio now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It sounds a little better, but still a little bit more distorted than usual, man. I don't know what's going on with the internet today. Okay, try it a little bit. But this will be our last try. So try it again a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, what I was saying is, where I left off with the youth unemployment, as I said, because like it tips off the scale. Because what I say is like when the stats comes out, because sometimes it worries even the working class South Africa, obviously. And when they say unemployment rate it's sky high, then obviously it's something that usually it worries quite a lot of people, and not just only black people, but also white people as well. Not just, I don't want to say in a bad way, but also just to share the sentiment what Aaron was saying, and also when it comes to the unemployment, sometimes obviously it dwells into crime as well. There's another issue which like usually obviously occurs in many townships in South Africa. So obviously Cape Town is more prevalent to the what you call this the crime that we are seeing here in South Africa, because every day we hearing the same thing, like Langa, like there's people have been shot, or it's Kalicha, you know. Even here, we hear people with, if I remember correctly, I think it was back in 2019, where there was someone who was terrorizing um, this place. It's just, I don't want to mention the name of the person, but you know, because always crime, it's also another issue when it comes to unemployment. It's not just only us, like people or color, because I'm also half color actually, to be precise. But one thing I can just say when it comes to that is culturally, or let me say, yes, what he is saying, when what Aaron is saying is true. Because what I heard is that I think in the 80s, 70s, obviously, many black people obviously would work for white people. Um, Obviously. So it's another thing that it was happening, and some were exiled for many years, and it was something that I don't want to be like too political, but it's something that obviously that was happening during that time because I was born in the 90s, but I researched about those type of stuff and also heard from people. So those are the other things that I know about. No, that's one thing I can say. So that's one thing I can say. So yeah.
Aaron, what do you think about that? If you could understand, it was still the signal, the quality of the audio was still very weak today. Aaron, were you able to understand?
I struggled a lot to hear what he was saying.
Maybe Latabo, could you just I just feel really bad about this, man. Can you just type a couple sentences in the chat here if you know how to do that? Just so we can easily convey it to Aaron, because it's totally not your fault. The audio quality was just very distorted today. I don't know what's going on. We've never had this problem before. If you type, it would be easy for me to understand it. Maybe type a couple sentences in the chat. But yeah, so what are some other areas that you want to talk about things that you noticed, going on in the 90s and things like that?
I think the 90s was still in the beginning of the new South Africa, and it was like what do you call it? It was like a honeymoon. It was like people really wanted to know each other. People really want to understand, and they really wanted to make things work. And I think the problems start when Nelson Mandela went away, when he went off, because Nelson Mandela was our first president of the New South Africa.
Right, exactly, yeah. And that is all very interesting. And then what was going on, in South Africa in the early 2000s? What do you think?
In the early 2000s, I think that is where the wheels came off, because there was more and more black economic empowerment. There's more and more things that didn't work very well. Then there was more and more, like a big company called Transnet. Things got worse there, and then in 2008, the problems start with Eskom when we where the load shedding started, and all the things got worse and more worse. And I think in the last 10 years, things really went very bad because there was land grabbings and things like where the farm attacks got more and more, and these days the farm attacks is more worse than ever. And although the farmer tax started really early in 2000s, but yeah, and people don't want to know it. People just turn a blind eye on that, and this is a great thing. And the biggest concern, I think the the greatest problem these days now, as we talk now, is the kill the boer, kill the farmer thing. And I understand there's black people that don't want that. There's black people that say, no, this is wrong. You cannot do that. And so, actually, there's different types of you cannot say all the black people are the same and all the black people want to kill farmers. And there's some of the older black people, they don't want war, they don't want problem like this, and want to kill people. They also want a country that work. And so yeah, it's and then for a high court to say that it's fine, you can sing kill the boer, kill the farmer, it's fine, you can march, you can keep on singing that song. It's really bad, and I understand things like the old flag of South Africa. It's a problem. They don't want white people to show that flag, and it it hurts. So that's why uh, most of white people in South Africa, they don't mind, they won't show the old flag because they know and they understand that it's a problem. It make a it make a problem between black and white. But
And what did that? And so, what
they
did that
but
old? What did the old flag look like? By the way,
shoot, I don't remember. It's a orange flag, the uh, the flag that they had in the during apartheid. I'm not sure how to explain it now. And yeah, in South Africa we are not allowed to show it, so I don't have a sample to show you. So yeah, but then I understand it it cut out certain parts of society. So in my opinion, maybe it wasn't a good thing, but um, it's not so bad as saying kill the boer, kill the farmer, and and Afrikaans people don't say kill the black man, kill the black man, uh, kill the minority, or kill the. There's other bad names. The word I don't want to use that word because for me it's also a swear word. It's a K word. Afrikaans people or um, so it was a bad word for describing black people. So I don't want to use that word. But Afrikaans people don't do that. Well, black people can say what they want. They can have a big gathering and they can shout, "Kill the boer, kill the farmer," and all that stuff. And the High Court say, "Yeah, it's fine. You can keep on." You can keep on. They call they because they call it a struggle song. So, and to my opinion, it's not because um, the past is gone. They are not struggling anymore. With what are they with what are they struggling? Because
Well,
the government, most of the people in government are black. So how can they still sing a thing like that in case
here's
we want to?
here's the thing. Here's where, and part of a great podcast is being able to disagree.
Yes.
Just because you're saying that just because that right now the government happens to be black, in other words, black leadership in the country, that does not what I wanted to say, and I'm doing this just to not necessarily limit the controversy that will come up in the chat on YouTube about this episode, but trying to balance out the different thought processes here. Just because there's happens to be a black leadership in the country, that certainly does not alleviate the past, nor does it make the problems of the past go away, nor does it make currently the problems that are existing for all South Africans disappear entirely either. Right, Letabo? So, it's important to illustrate that, and I do understand, your frustrations. In America, we have we have a certain word that we are not going to use, obviously. But when you mentioned what it was a certain word that we have in the States, and we are not going to say it on the channel, obviously. But Aaron, I do understand what the word is, and I understand what it means. And we have that in English, and we have that word in the States. And it's a word that I don't use. Again, why? He is always... This is resisting a lot here. Because we don't use that word here in the States. At least I don't. Unfortunately, though, what tends to happen, and what I consistently notice, is that when people of a certain minority are treated very poorly for a very long time, sometimes when certain members of certain people in that group of people are not educated, they think it's okay to say that certain word just because of the past, and it's not okay to say the word regardless. But that's how we have had a very similar experience in the States as well. Very different experience to yours, but similar. Go ahead, Letabo. Let's try your audio. I think you have some things that you want to say. Mm-hmm.
I don't know now. Is it okay or not?
Not really. Not really. You are having no luck today with the audio, man. I don't know what it is today. I don't know. Is your neighborhood? Is your neighborhood in one? Are they about to turn off the electricity in your neighborhood again? What's going on with the electricity in the neighborhood today, man? Because usually you're much clearer.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's my Wi-Fi. So
well, it's really bad today. It's super bad because I always struggle to hear you well, and then today it's all crackly. And I would say after this call, I would say just go reset the modem, or I don't know, go try to replug in the electricity again or something. But still, you can try to say something, or you can type your comments there in the chat box.
Okay, because
go ahead.
Okay, I don't know. Can you hear me? I don't know. Can you hear me? Because I took my laptop.
I'm able to hear you. So Letabo, we're able to hear you, but the quality of the audio is poor.
Okay.
So try to explain what you want to explain now.
Okay, what I wanted to say is the thing that is currently happening in South Africa, it's basically,
Not strong enough. I don't mean to. I'm sorry to be interrupting constantly, but it's just
okay.
the signal. Can you go over to the keyboard and navigate to the chat box and just type the chat? I want you to be able to express yourself, but the audio is not cooperating. So please type, okay? Please.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay, please type in under where you wrote what you just typed. Please type a couple sentences for your thought, and then I'll read it aloud for Aaron, and then that'll help to clarify it all. Okay? Yeah. So
Okay, no problem.
So Aaron, I agree with you that certain things from the past are, so sometimes this is all of what we're talking about is a consequence of people making certain decisions a long time ago, and this is one of the consequences that when you hurt, the life lesson behind it all is when you hurt someone, everybody gets hurt. And when you help people, everyone gets help, and that's why it's important to be able to come to a podcast like this one and have this discussion and learn from the past, and leave this podcast episode maybe a little bit frustrated that we talked about it today, a little bit upset, but think to ourselves, we need to have these discussions because we consistently see that these problems are building up and up and up in society, and that we see that although we do not, luckily, obviously, thanks to God, we do not live in the apartheid era now. The remnants of it and the side effects of those decisions are still impacting society now. So, that's why people need to learn, need to learn about it, and they need to get educated, and they need to start realizing that we need to make the right choices. We've seen through history all the wrong choices. Why don't we make the right ones? That would be my point about that. And Latabo is typing in the chat, and when he's able to send a text in the chat here on Zoom, I'll read it to you. I'm not sure. I think you could, Aaron. I think you could see it if you navigated, but I'll read it to you when he puts it in the chat. But yeah, that's that's how these things are, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you that people can learn from each other, and I think in it, apartheid in a certain way is not a bad thing, but then because people can still, communities can still do their own thing, and they can learn from each other. They can learn to have their own thing, and to be like a unity in diversity.
Right.
And so my belief is that let the sun shine over everyone. Let us let us help each other in a certain in ways to learn from each other, to because certain groups of people, they don't want to stay with other groups, and I think let them have their freedom to have their own country, to have their own things, to create for themselves. And there is a small community in South Africa, in the Northern Cape, called Urania, and they are doing very well with that. And there is other communities around them who learned from them, and they're still on their own, but they learn from each other, and they come along quite well. And for both of them, for both of the communities, things is better because they They can have their own freedom, they can have their own stuff, but they're still learning from each other.
That's very good, and that's really what people need to do. Is they need to start actively learning. And
Yeah,
I see this all over the world. Your country has been adversely affected by this matter, and at the same time, as you know, Aaron, we have guests and we have listeners from all over the world who have probably faced other challenges too that have held their countries back. This is a big issue. And unfortunately, when people start to get a little bit having struggles with access to education and knowledge, that really holds a country back. And also, when children and young people get educated, it really moves the country forward. So
yes,
what we need to do is we need to acknowledge the mistake that we made. We need to educate
yes,
people about the mistake we made. And then we need to say, so your generation will hopefully be the generation where everyone's educated and we start making the right choice. Goodness knows, for heaven's sakes, Aaron and Letabo there in the audience, if there would ever be a great time for a country to make one tiny little thing, to get one little tiny thing right, that would be really good, because we're suffering in the United States. A vast majority of the world is suffering immensely. And so, that's what it would take if we would just take baby steps in the right direction.
yes,
I
yes,
think that's your point. And I think today you probably frustrated, in all honesty, you probably frustrated a lot of the listeners today. At first, they might have gotten the wrong impression, but I understood your point and I understood your background of where you were coming from. But you
yeah,
also have to understand that it takes a certain level of maturity to understand what you were talking about and what points you were making and what you meant the whole time, which I did understand. I think probably we're going to have a lot of questions about this episode in the chat. So if you do have questions, type them out. Write the questions down in the chat, and we would love to hear from you. Let's see now. Well,
Stop timer button. Back button.
so here's the thing. That is the hour. I would end most interview episodes. I would end the same way. So I'll end this one the same way. Okay.
yeah. I heard I read now what Letabo is saying, and I agree with him.
Okay. So
And
hold
we
on.
must also
So
understand.
Aaron. So okay. So Aaron, actually, so Latabo's point overall is that there's a lot of crime in South Africa. He typed it in the
Yes,
chat. He's saying that what he really feels is that there were a lot of problems in the past, and the battle that South Africa is losing right now is the crime battle. That there's an
yes,
increase in violent
I
crime. That's his
yes
point.
I agree. Yes, I read that, and I
Oh, okay.
agree with Letabo, and we mustn't forget, black people is also still uh, getting it very bad, because the the government made promises, the ANC made promises, and they believe that the ANC will fix everything and make everything right. But and to be quite honest, politicians sometimes they are doing really bad things
Let me
to our
correct you. That's all the time. That's not some of the time. That's all the time.
yeah.
All,
Okay.
all the politicians do the wrong thing. Whether
Yeah.
you're a black politician, Afrikaans politician, you're still a politician. I'm
Yeah.
not believing either
Yeah.
one. They're
Yeah.
all
I
politicians.
agree with
Yeah.
that. And then so so to get followers, to get
Mhm.
more followers, and so on, they they feed people with lies. So
Right.
I think that is one of the most things that happen. And now they they yeah they don't think to they don't doesn't seem to come right with the promises they made to lots of black people and white people, because there was also white people, there's also white people who voted for them, because there was people who believed um, that we must give the new South Africa a better chance and make it better. And that's really what many people wanted to do. But it didn't turn out that way. And like Latabu said, we are losing the battle because of the crime and because of our right system. The in the court, the the people, the people who do the crime, they have too many rights. There's too many loopholes where the where the law system doesn't work for people who want to make an honest living and make things work and so on. So yeah, that
Right.
is also a big problem.
Yeah, yeah, that's becoming a bigger problem in the States right now. This whole thing is a huge legal problem. So there's a lot of justice issues in South Africa with
Yes,
not with
yeah,
the police are not probably what it is that the police don't have the support of the government to arrest the right people and to prosecute the right people. But that has always been an ongoing problem, and I think that always will be an ongoing problem until we address that problem. Until we put the fix to it. But we in the States too, we're having a rise in violent crime ever since the pandemic. More and more people are committing crimes. It's a very, very serious matter, and it's an increasing problem.
yeah.
Any other questions? Any other a very, very fascinating episode. We really covered a lot of serious stuff today. Really, really well done. And Latabo, thanks for putting up with this. I'm sorry your audio, your Wi-Fi, just you didn't have luck today with the Wi-Fi. I don't know what was going on. But thank you for being good natured and typing and still participating. And by the way, Latabo is really moving up here in Aaron's Opinion. He's our basically our I would call him basically the Aaron's Opinion ambassador to South Africa. He's doing some, I don't know if you saw that, Aaron, but he's doing some posts all over Facebook, and he created a hashtag for Aaron's Opinion, at hashtag Aaron's Opinion SILA, I think. Sila, which means I think come to us or something like that. So he's been doing a lot of promotional stuff, Aaron, if you joined, I forget, Aaron, if you do join the WhatsApp group or the public Facebook group, that would be good, because you can connect with more people and learn about what we do even more. I forget. Are you on either of the groups, the WhatsApp or the Facebook group?
I'm on the WhatsApp group.
You are?
And
okay, good.
I am on Facebook. People can look me up on Facebook at Aaron's Swanepoel.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, right. But I just meant, the reason why I was asking is I just meant, did you join the public Facebook group for Aaron's Opinion?
Yeah, if you can maybe send me a link,
Sure.
then I can join the group. But I am on the WhatsApp group.
That's good. That's good. I can WhatsApp you. I can WhatsApp you after this. So Aaron,
Okay.
do you have any questions for me that you want to ask? You know that I'm really into history, and really, that these matters that we address today are important to me. They're important to Latabo, and they're important to Aaron, and they're important to South Africa and the world. So do you have any questions you want to ask me? And at this point, you can ask me anything.
Well, I think you learned a lot about South Africa, and um, yeah, I really don't have a serious question at this moment, but yeah, maybe what I can ask, what is the thing about South Africa that you learned? What was more? What was attractive to know more about South Africa? How did
Well,
you?
I gotta say that if we're only going to talk about the negative history of South Africa and apartheid, that that's a lose-lose. That really detracts from
Yeah,
South
yeah,
Africa overall. So that's not a promotional point for the country. Disclaimer: this episode of Aaron's Opinion does not promote the Republic of South Africa in any way. If anything, this episode it's a little sketchy. But I think what I'm starting to figure out, and I think what I've noticed, consistently noticed, is that South African people seem to be responding well to Aaron's opinion. And I think I know what the reason is. I think that my podcast and my opinions and my perspective in living is very complicated and very deep. And I think that South African people are also very complex people. So I think we can
yeah,
all come together. And I think that's why you're so attracted to my show, is because I've been through so much. And, I'm a young person, I'm 32. And you were saying on the other episode, I think you're in your 50s or 60s. You're
yes,
older than me.
yeah. I'm 51.
Well, there you go. There you go. Okay, 51. So you have 30 years more of experience than I do. And I think what is really, really striking to you is how willing I am to educate the world. And I think that's what's needed. And I think that's why Aaron's Opinion right now has such a following and has such a listener group in South Africa, because people really do need to learn about this. And that's what I think. What I would want to learn more about is, there's a lot of diversity in South Africa. There's a lot of groups of people. There's a lot of different perspectives. I guarantee today that if Ian Naidu was sitting here in the studio with us, he would have definitely pushed back a couple of times when you said some of the things that you said. He would have definitely had a couple of things to say to you about that. And I don't think he would have agreed with everything you said, by the way, but he would have also been willing to engage you in a meaningful way, as he always does. So that's what I can tell you, is that I think that this was just a really cool conversation to have. And I really don't know how many other podcasters, even in South Africa, or how many podcasters in the world have even, taken a seat and actually addressed this matter. But I'm glad we talked about it. And I'm glad that we had the conversation.
Yes, and maybe we can get different people to talk about their culture.
Right.
Uh,
Right. And hopefully
like
by
last week.
having this discussion, it will become
Yeah,
clear that Aaron's Opinion is the place where you can come up to me and talk about your life experience, and
yeah,
and to be able to explain things. And one thing that I've learned as a podcaster and someone who talks to people in other countries is I have to be really careful about remembering that everybody has had and has and will have a different life experience. And
yes,
it's really important to take that into consideration when you talk to people, when you reach out to people. Everybody has their different way of going about things. So
yeah. But
that's what. Yes, go ahead.
a positive thing I want to
Sure,
say is,
absolutely.
if I can, if I can say this to maybe Afrikaner people who listen, African people who listen, or maybe, yeah, well, all over the world. Um, love each other like you love yourself, um, and understand that people just also want good things for themselves also, and so it's fine to want to have that, without and you can have all nice things. It's not necessary to take anything away from somebody else to make your own life better. And I think one point that come up if during the our conversation tonight is when you help your neighbor, you actually help yourself, or you help somebody else. And maybe one day, and you don't know, but one day, the good thing that you did come back to you. So love other people and understand that other people also need to be loved and also need to uh, let have good things happen to them. So maybe uh, always try to be kind and think before you speak. Don't say words that hurt people. Don't say words that confront people in a bad way. And always make sure that you don't hurt people with your words. So yeah,
So
that is
that's great.
my thing that I want to say.
All right. All right. I think that wraps it up, and that's a beautiful way to end. All right. Well, let's give Latabo one more chance, one more try at the microphone. Latabo, are there any points, maybe a one sentence point, given how strange the audio has been, any points you want to make before we walk out of here today? He's definitely unmuted. Oh boy.
Yeah, maybe
Uh-oh. I don't know what's his Wi-Fi. Did Aaron did Latabo's neighborhood have one of those outage things? Because this
yeah, maybe yeah. Well, I think in South Africa we have states where okay, he said he's
yeah, he's
muted
muted.
again.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's give him. Let me give him the fullest chance to
Maybe he must type again.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. He must be, for some reason, he is jumping. I think when he mutes, it locks it on mute. I think that's the problem we're encountering. So, yeah, it's understandable. But unfortunately, that's how I have to keep it to keep the. Okay. All right. Anyway, so yeah, do you have any final words, Latabo? Any final comments that you want to make about this huge topic today?
Yeah, well, I want to say.
I don't know if you can hear me right now.
Yeah, we can. We can go, Latabo. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Well, for me, well, this discussion was very innovative and informative, as well as I can tell, because I mean, there's a lot of things that I've never knew that deep when it comes to South Africa. So some I know, but some I not know. But that's one thing I have learned today. So that's one thing I can really say right now.
Right. So you learned a lot today just by hearing what Aaron had to say, right? You really that was a really interesting thing to learn from, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you to both of you for joining me today. That was a very interesting discussion and very, very valuable, and more than likely very controversial, but still a discussion that's worth it, that's valuable. Guys, I will send you we'll talk over on WhatsApp. Aaron, it would be the easiest way to get that Facebook link that I want to send. If you could just send a message in the group, in the WhatsApp group that you're in, If you can come up in that group and just send a message, you can type it or you can use your voice, but that would help me to get you that link, or I can send it to you privately. But if you message in the main group on WhatsApp for us, that would really help too. All right.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you to both of you. Have a very, very good evening. And I'm going to walk us out of here by saying, take care, love yourselves, love your neighbors, love everyone, be healthy, be happy, and be wise. As our Filipino friend would say, be healthy, be happy, and be wise. And take care. We'll talk soon. From wherever in the world you're listening, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow. If you're still watching on YouTube, thank you. Don't forget, we have a lot of listeners all over the world, from South Africa, and really from all four corners of the globe are tuning in. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who watched on YouTube. We talked about a lot of serious stuff today and a lot of meaningful stuff. And I just want to say thank you. We'll be back soon. Like it if you like it. Comment below. And take care. Take care, everyone out there from around the world. And we'll be back soon. We'll catch up on WhatsApp, guys. And as I like to say, help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow. I'm out. See you later.